Thank you for staying with Citizen Weekend. It's time for Women in Leadership now. Rosa Buyu defeated the incumbent Rose Nyong'o during the political party primaries to clinch an ODM ticket for the women rep position. She's with us in studio this evening. Thank you very much for talking to us. And tonight we're talking about newcomers. And I wouldn't really call Rosa here a newcomer because she's previously vied for other positions. But we're talking about the new faces that we're seeing in the political scene. Rosa, you are one of them. You contested for the Kisumu West parliamentary seat in the last general election. You lost to Olago Alwoch. This time, and I believe it was 2 times previously that you've gone for this. This time round, you were fortunate enough or lucky to clinch the ODM ticket. What did it take? Why did you keep going, and why did you think that this time round your fortunes would be different?
First of all, thank you, Lillian, for having me here. And before I say anything, I'd like to thank the people of Kisumu County for having given me this opportunity and made me go past the nominations. I really want to thank them because the win was enormous. I ended up with 177,000 votes against my closest rival, Rose Nyong'o, at 50,000. So that was almost over 3 times. It is true that I've tried twice, but not for the women rep position. I've tried twice, first in 2007, in the then constituency that was called Kisumu Town West constituency. Now it's Kisumu Central. And then in 2013, I did try to become the member of parliament for Kisumu West constituency. Without going into that long story, I was a winner who was never declared a winner. But I always had this passion that this is what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to do for these people. And I always felt like, and I'm sure you also know this, Lillian, in Kenya, if you have the title, the sky is the limit. There are so many things I wanted to do for the people of Kisumu, and all I lacked was the title. I had the passion, I had the energy, I had all that it took. But I didn't have the title. Because with that title, you can knock all doors and people will listen to you because you're a people's representative. Right, and you chose to go for the women's rep position. Previously, you were interested in being member of parliament. Do you then think that this perhaps was an easier position for you to clinch within Kisumu? I want to say not easier because in Kisumu County we have 7 constituencies. So what it actually meant was I was running in 7 constituencies as opposed to running in 1 constituency, which is what I did the first 2 times. And I will be honest that at the beginning I didn't want to go for this position because I always felt that I was strong enough to fight it out with the men. And in 2013, as much as I was approached to go for this position and people took it for granted that this was my position, I felt that I wanted to give another woman this position because it automatically had to go to a woman while I fought it out with the men. Now come 2017, I was approached by the women leaders of Kisumu County and they told me, look, we've had this position for now 4 years. We have not seen its benefits. We do not even see our women representative. And they kept on giving me the example of Gladys Wanga and saying, look at what she's doing for Homa Bay. Rosa, you must put down your pride and you must come down and go for this seat. So I thought that if you want to be a good leader, sometimes you listen. And I thought this position also offers me the same opportunity, except that it will now be covering a larger area of 7 constituencies as opposed to 1 constituency. But what I wanted to do in that 1 constituency, I could still translate it and do it in these 7 constituencies. So I went for it. Right, and the race for the women representative seat was lukewarm. Let's talk about the 4 Nyanza counties, that's Kisumu, Homa Bay, Migori and Siaya. Only 10 aspirants declared interest in the seat, and indeed for Gladys Wanga there was no competitor whatsoever. Why did the women shy away? I think when you think of the county, like I've told you, in Kisumu County we have 7 constituencies. That's a large area. You know, women all over the country are not well endowed with money as much as the men are. And if you want to campaign in 7 constituencies, you need to have some money, even if it's just for logistics, even if it's just for getting to know people. You need to have some money. Women do not have that sort of money. So that is one main reason why not too many women came out for the seat. In Gladys Wanga's case, I think it could have been different because there's this feeling that she's done a good job and anybody trying to vie against her was going up for an uphill task. So many of them just shied off. But I think the biggest thing is money.
The incumbents have been criticized as not knowing what this seat is all about. Like you mentioned there in the case of Kisumu, a lot of women there felt that the incumbent was not as visible. Of course, this is arguable, but what is this seat all about, and what changes do you intend to bring to Kisumu?
I'd like to say that to some extent it's true that probably some of them didn't understand what this seat was all about, because this is the first time that we are having the women representative seat. I've been in politics before. I've been very active in politics, both with the people of Kisumu County and within the party ODM. And I've worked and lived with these people, interacted with them in so many ways. So by and large, I know what their needs were and what they would have wanted from their leader. Unfortunately, the incumbent was never a politician. So she got into a field without actually knowing what the field was like and what was expected of her. And unfortunately, she's an introvert. In politics and our sort of politics, when you come to Kisumu, a leader ought to be somebody who goes around and talks to people and mingles with them and laughs with them and sort of interacts with them. But she's an introvert. So that is the biggest problem that I think I saw.
And you're an extrovert?
What do you think, Lillian?
Well, I think you're bubbly.
I love people. I really love people. I love people, and I love living with people, and I really like hugging people. And when you hug these old women, they just feel nothing but love. So I like to work for people. I like to make a difference in people's lives. And I think that was one edge that I had over her. And I've been around these people in difficult times, in times when they needed to know about the Constitution, when they needed to be made politically aware of what was happening, when they needed to have people running on the street to get IBC out of office. I've been with them, so they know me and they trust me. So I think that...
What issues are the women of Kisumu grappling with?
Let me tell you, and this is, Kisumu County is basically rural, except for Kisumu Central, which is the urban, the town, the city. But otherwise, the rest of the 6 constituencies are rural. We have a big problem with water. There is no way you can say that you have affirmative action seat, which is supposed to empower women, if you cannot release hours for women, because most of the women in this county wake up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock to go and search for water. By 11 o'clock in the morning, a woman who's been up at 3, 4, 5 a.m. are still on the queue, waiting to get water. There is no way you're going to say you want to empower that woman economically if you cannot provide that water so that she has less hours spent in search for water, and you release the other hours for her to do other activities that would improve her life and the lives of her family economically. So one major issue in Kisumu County, whether it's for the governor, for whatever leader, and I think this is where I'm going to put the greatest effort, even if I know that the Affirmative Action Fund does not cover supply of water for the women reposition. But there is a way that you can mobilize people or mobilize funds to ensure that this biggest problem that's stopping women from realizing their potential economically, you need to do something about that. And I think I'm going to put a lot of effort, whether it's by putting boreholes or doing what, or getting donors to do it. But my promise to the Kisumu women, especially the rural women in Kisumu County, is I'd like to get the burden of searching for water away from them. That I'd like to do.
So water is a big issue for you.
Water is the biggest for these people, the biggest. But I know Affirmative Action Fund is actually clearly states the areas that this money is supposed to be used for. Water is not one of them. But like I told you, if you have that title, Lillian, you can knock anybody's door and request for water to be.
Which is interesting that you pointed that out, because a lot of the incumbents that have come to studio previously, the women reps, have alluded to the fact that the funding is not sufficient, and that somehow poses a challenge to their developmental projects, to them helping the electorate.
Affirmative Action Fund, it is 7 million per year per constituency. In our county, we have 7 constituencies. So that means we have 49 million every year coming into Kisumu County. Affirmative Action Fund is not a fund for building big things like schools or roads you know, like you do with the CDF. It is a fund that does small things that changes people's lives. But what I'm saying is this: where there's poverty or where there's real constraints in terms of living, 49 million is actually sufficient to make a difference. If you get yourself, if you target specific groups that needs to be elevated, because what Affirmative Action Fund seeks to do is to improve lives, you know, lift people from where they are to here. And 49 million a year can actually do that.
The fact that you mentioned very clearly here that you had vied for an MP position previously and have now gone for a women's rep position, could this be a strategy for you to go for an even higher position perhaps in 2022? Are you going to be comfortable within this? I mean, if you do make it, that's in the August polls.
Lillian, once you go into the county and you build your structures and you do a good job, surely you don't go down. Do you go back down? You can only go up, isn't it? Because you've built your structures within the county. People know you within the county. People appreciate what you've done for them. You still have the Senate seat, which still covers the county. You have the Deputy Governor's seat, which covers the county. You have the Governor's seat, which covers the county. So I think after the seat of the women representative, the sky is the limit in those other areas.
Let's talk about Parliament. Recently resumed its sessions, and of course there's been talk about the two-third gender rule and the fact that there have been quorum hitches previously which have stood in the way of actualization of this bill. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I'd like to tell you that in 2016 I was an integral part of the women's movement that was pushing to ensure that Parliament did not go beyond August 27th, 2016, because when we went to court in 2015, the judgment that was given was that Parliament was given 1 year within which they ought to have acted. They actually asked for another year, which was allowed in the Constitution. Otherwise, everything about the two-thirds gender rule should have actually been done and completed by August 2015. But Parliament, because they were not able to do it, extended it, which the Constitution allowed them to do, by another year. So basically by August 27, 2016, what we're doing now ought to have been done. At that particular time, I was the chairperson of Tulutimbili Zamama. That was a movement, part of the women's movement, that was trying to push Parliament to ensure that Parliament actually passed the two-thirds gender rule, as is stipulated in the Constitution. You know what I think? They are not sincere. They are not sincere because each time one of the principals talk, like now the President has spoken, the last time Mheshimiwa Raila spoke and even went to Parliament to witness the debate. So every time that happens, there's some action around it. But when you leave it to the parliamentarians, because they're the only ones who can debate and legislate, the principals or the President are not part of Parliament. When you leave it to them, they come up with excuses and they don't do it. The last time, we know that Jubilee, I'm sorry if I'm going to talk about Jubilee, but I must. Jubilee said they were also supporting the two-thirds gender rule. And in fact, Honorable Duale, one of the bills that was to be debated in Parliament was referred to as Duale's bill. When the day of the debate came, the URP part of Jubilee were nowhere in Parliament. And it needed a certain quorum for the debate to even begin.
So what will it take for this to actually come into actualization? Because we seem to be facing the same scenario.
The other day I read in the papers that the Speaker was suggesting that the best way to go around this is to kill the 47 seats of the women representatives and just come up with 100 affirmative action seats for them.
And there are those that have argued that that is actually a valid point, because during campaign season the women are very vocal and they talk about what they will do for the women of this nation, but once they get into the House, once they get these elective positions, they totally go quiet. So it's also been called a flower girl position.
I don't think it's fair to say that of the women, because men also make huge promises bigger than women, and when they go there, whether they are young or old, so long as they are men, when they go there, most of them do not achieve or make good those promises. So it's just not about women. Probably it's something that happens to people when they're in parliament, and I hope I'm not going to discover what it is. Okay.
So I want to read some of the comments that are coming in here. Somebody is saying primaries is not a ticket to the August House. This is Ongere in Kisumu Central. Somebody is saying we will vote for you in August, but tell your party leader not to advocate for 6Ps, because it's only you who was validly elected. Professor Nyong'o and Honorable Ota will see dust because we have the votes, while Honorable Pareno has only words, and in Nairobi no more ODM. Someone here is saying, Mama Rosa Buyu, you're setting standards too low by aspiring to emulate Gladys Wanga as your role model. Taking part in anti-IEBC demos do not constitute fighting for the people. Just outline clear vision that is achievable as a legislator and representative of the people. We know the roles of county women, MPs, as outlined in the Constitution. This is Jack Odhiambo Kanyadiang. Let's start with this person here. This person here is saying that you are setting your standards too low by aspiring to emulate Gladys Wanga. I don't know where he picked that from, but he's also talking about taking part in anti-IEBC demos.
What I've said is, the people of Kisumu have seen me around the activities before campaign period. And if one of the activities was demonstration against IEBC, I was there. I'm not saying that demonstrating against IEBC is a good agenda. I'm saying it was one of the activities that they thought, the people of Kisumu or the ODM members thought that they wanted to do, and I was part of it. In other words, when one needs to be counted, I'm always there to be counted with them.
But perhaps his concern is that this is a bit unladylike. When we talk about the women's rep position, I suppose people look at it as you're the mother of the county. You're perhaps supposed to disengage yourself from some of these protests.
I don't think that's what women rep position is. Women rep position is a position that's exactly the same as the member of Parliament for a single constituency, because the women rep position mandates the women representative to legislate, to represent, and to do oversight. Those three are exactly the same as member of Parliament for a constituency. So there's no difference there.
What about this viewer here who's saying that your party leader should not advocate for 6Ps because there are voters who will come to cast the ballot solely for you as Rosa, and perhaps will not be interested in casting the ballot for the other?
I know this is a discussion that the party is going to have, and remember, we just came from party nomination exercise, and it's not concluded yet. A few people have still gone to court and the tribunal, so people are still hurting, and people are still not sure which way to go. A lot of people, as you've seen, many of them have gone for independent to contest as independent candidates, and I think people still have to have conversation and talk. I don't know what position the party is going to take, but I know that any political party would always like to have its numbers boosted in any contest. So if somebody is ODM, obviously you'd like more ODM members to be elected, because then it gives you strength in Parliament.
And as we close, campaign season is kicking off late this month. I think you only have a week or two to go. For you, to your electorate, because of course you are going to have to face it off in August with your competitors. What words do you have for your electorate as we close?
Before we even close, I want to acknowledge that I've not yet won this seat. It is true, like somebody has said, that real elections will be on August 8th. And I have a lady who is, she's called Grace Akumu. She's also vying, but vying on another party's ticket. And I think she's also good for the job. And we're going to have a good fight for August 8th. I'd like to tell the people of Kisumu that all the promises I made about bringing this seat of women representative close to them, because this is a seat that also came with devolution. Devolution means get the power and decision making and resources close to the people. And the number one promise I made to the people of Kisumu County was I was going to decentralize the office of the women representative into each of those 7 constituencies, so that people don't have to travel far and wide to come for a bursary reform, for example. So that people don't have to travel far and wide to come and just ask questions. So what I said, and what I still want to say, is that if I get this position, come August 8th, Seme constituency will have their own women representative office in Seme. Kisumu West, the same. Kisumu Central, the same. Nyando constituency, the same. Kisumu East, the same.
This is from whose funding?
This is, even if it has to be my funding. Remember, an office doesn't have to be as elaborate as this. An office could be a small room with just a single door and one window. But it's an office where people can seek service. This is what I promised, and this is what I'm going to do. And I want them to hold me to that promise. Because the one reason why they say they never felt the women representative was because this place is large. 7 constituencies is not a joke. And they are not like Nairobi constituencies that are close together. They are far apart. So if you want to be available, if you want your presence to be felt, you must have an office right where the people live. And that, I'd like them to hold me to that promise.
Very many thanks for joining us this evening. We've been talking to Rosa Buyu, who defeated the incumbent Rose Nyong'o during the political party primaries to clinch an ODM ticket for the women rep position. You've heard her articulate her vision, and of course, those are her words as regards what she intends to do for the people and indeed the women of Kisumu County. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and all the very best in the August poll.
Wish me that luck loudly so that they can...
I bet they've heard me loud and clear. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be coming up with the day's sports very shortly. Don't go away.
Thank you.